What they're scared of. The people who are good at greasiness can make people happy even when it sounds like you are criticizing them. This is something you have to study deeply. What's most important is when you threaten them, don't overuse it or they're going to blow the top. You can even put yourself in hell. Don't use threaten until you have got nothing else to do. Give. It means bribes. There are two kinds of bribes: big bribes, like packs of money, and small bribes, like some whiny little things like asking them to go to dinner. There are two kinds of people who you need to bribe: the people who have rights and power to use it to help, and the people who will give their position to you. You will see the miracle if you have done what the 6 words tell you. Some big man sits there and talks to himself. Someone wants to have some title. He talks so much about it. Here is free. He has something to do with me. Dig. This person is smart. Learn. And he treats me well. Greediness. But he is a bit bad. If I don't deal with it, he might do something not good for me. Threaten. So now he turns around and sees a bunch of something lying on the table. Give. He can say nothing more and asks someone to give you some position. Now you should have gotten all that you want. Then take up and do what the 6 words below tell you. The 6 true words to learn to hold power as a governor or officer. Empty, compliment, tight, evil, deaf. Get the meanings of the 6 words. Empty. Empty means first is on the paper. When you write or sign some documents, they should all be empty. It's hard to explain this. You can go to all kinds of government offices and read the stuff on the wall or paper. You will understand. Second is about things. Whatever you do, you should make sure it either can be left or right. Sometimes you make it fast and strict, but there is a path where you can walk away. Never make it have anything to do with you when it becomes difficult. Compliment. Compliment means bend your knees, cringe and smile obsequiously. You can do it directly to your boss or indirectly to the friends or family of your boss. Tense. Tense is the opposite of compliment. You do it to them who are lower than you. First is your appearance. Make yourself like a sat who can't be offended. Second is your talk. You should talk like you are really knowledgeable. But sometimes you can be obsequious to the lower people and be tense to the higher. You need to learn it by yourself and make it flexible. Evil. Do whatever you can to reach your purpose. Kill him, sell his kids. Don't worry about anything. But there is something you have to be careful about. You should do every evil thing with a cover of morality. Deaf. Be deaf to something you don't want to hear. Just be yourself and do whatever you need to. And it can also be blind. Be blind if you don't want to see it. Get. It means getting money. All the one words above are for this one. Get compares to give. Above get comes after give. But you have to get something done before you get. If you can't get it done, some money should be given. The 12 words IG talked about are just an outline. Most of the spirit is not told yet. You can follow the outline and go study for yourself. 2 good WAVs of dealing with things. Arrow cutting way. Someone got shot by the arrow and went to see a doctor. The doctor cut off the parts outside, then asked for the money. Why didn't he take it out? He said, it's a surgeon's job. Go find one. This is an old story. Nowadays the people in the governments and the officers all use these ways to deal with things. Like, this situation is not a part of our job, please go to XX department to find someone else who is in charge and get it done soon. Not part of our jobs is like cutting the arrow. Someone else is like the surgeon. Or when I say to someone who wants my help, I totally agree with it, but I have to talk to someone else to make sure. Totally agree is like cutting the arrow. Someone else is the surgeon again. There are still a lot of examples you need to taste by yourself. Pan fixing way. The cooking pan is broken. You had a pan fixer to fix it, while the pan fixer is scratching the black dirt off the bottom of the pan. He says to you, "Please make some fire for me." When you turn your back to him, he hit the pan a few times, then the crack on the pan gets bigger. Then he tells you, "Look, the crack on this pan is so long, you couldn't see it if I didn't scratch the dirt off. Now I have to put in more nails in it." Then you look and say, "Great. I'm so happy I found you, or the pan wouldn't work without you." After it's done, the pan fixer and the pan owner are all happy in the end. There are so many affairs in history that went like this. Some say many of the Chinese revolutions, they cut the good part and cured it. This is the pan-fixing way. In the Qing dynasty, people mostly used arrow-cutting way. After that, people used both arrow-cutting and pan-fixing way. The two ways above are examples of doing things. No matter when and where, it will be successful if you use it right, and it will fail if you don't use it. Guangzong was a great politician in Chinese history. He made things in these two ways. Duran crusaded against the Qi Empire. Waited. After Duran beat down Wei, Qi came out and said, "Have to keep it even if we lose everything." This is pan-fixing Wei. In the War of Shaolin, he didn't blame Chu Emperor about usurping him, but blames that he didn't pay the tribute he had to. This is the arrow-cutting way. At that time, the Chu Empire was so much stronger than Qi. Guangzong asked Qi Hu Wangong to crusade against the Chu. You can say he broke the pan to fix it. And when the Chu tried to fight, he cut the arrow right away. The War of Shaolin started with pan fixing and ended with arrow cutting. He could fix the broken pan. That's why he was called the Great Genius. Wang Dao was the prime minister in Jin dynasty. There was a traitor at that time. Wang Dao didn't go catch him. Tao Can blamed him, and he answered, "I'm just waiting for the good time to attack." Can laughed and said he was just waiting for the traitor to become stronger. Wang Dao's good time waiting is like keeping the top of the arrow and waiting for the surgeon. Many big men were crying in Xinting. Wang Dao changed colors and said, "We should get together and revive our empire. Why are we crying here as the prisoners of Chu?" He acted like he was doing it for justice, picked up the hammer and tried to fix the pan, but he just didn't mean to do anything. The two emperors, Huai Min, were left north and could never come back again. The arrow was never taken out. Wangdao's action is kind of like Guanzhong. That's why he was called the Guanzhong on the other side of the river Jiangzhou Yiwu. If you followed what I said, you should have been a great politician. Conclusion. I have said so much until now. At this moment we are waiting for the big melon we grew. I have to tell the readers that, while using thick black theory, we have to put some moral cover over it. We cannot show it directly. The reason why Wang Mang failed was because people knew he was black and thick too much. If he didn't show so much, I'm afraid he would still be eating cold pork in Confucius's temple. Han Fzi said, "Tell people that you dislike it, but use it behind the back. This is a necessary way. 2. Like the book you are reading now, you should hide it under your pillow, not on the table. And if somebody asks if you know Li Zongwu, you should say seriously, that guy was the most terrible person. He was talking about thick and black. I shouldn't have known him. But you should treat Li Zongwu as a master who enlightens your way to success. I believe you will have a wonderful career in front of you, and you'll be eating cold pork in Confucius's temple. And every time when I hear somebody criticizing me, I will be glad and say, my idea is on the road. What I said about thick black theory is that we should put some moral cover over thick black theory. I mean to the moral people. If you met somebody who studies sex, I guess it's not interesting for him to talk about morality. And now you should put the "Love is Holy" cover on it. If you met a friend of Mark's, you should put the cover of "The People Are Everything." He would probably call you comrade. Anyway, we need to put on some kind of cover, which is also something we need to learn. Anytime, anywhere, every way to success is around thick black theory. You should think about it more if you really want to learn. Appendix 1. Who was Lee Zongwu? Nan Weidong relates his experience of Lee Zongwu. I left Zhejiang for Chengdu. I had just turned 20 years old. People in Chengdu weren't too fond of people from Zhejiang, but I wanted to study Feijian Kung Fu and fight the Japanese army. So, I often visited people who were famous, well-educated, and had a lot of Kung Fu skill and knowledge. In Chengdu at the time, there were a lot of tea houses in Shaocheng Park. Brew pot of tea, sit for half the day or the whole day and pay when you left. If you had to leave at some point to run some errands, you could leave and just put the lid on your cup upside down. The owner of the shop would leave it until you got back. If you didn't have any money to drink tea, that was okay too. When the boss asked you what you wanted, you just told them, "He'll have a glass," and they would bring you a glass of water. I don't think we'll see this kind of rural relaxed atmosphere ever again. Shaocheng Park was the place to gather for many famous people and many people that still followed older traditions. You could often see people wearing long kippas and cloth shoes. These were just the type of people I was looking for, so I often went there. To the people there, I was just a kid. I wore Sun Yat-sen style suits and I was from Zhejiang, the place Chiang Kai-shek was from. People were suspicious of me at first. Maybe I was sent out to Chengdu by Chiang Kai-shek. After a while, people slowly began to understand I was out there to learn. The suspicion faded and I began to make friends. One day I was at Changsha Park with some friends drinking tea and playing chess. A man walked in. He was tall, hunched over and wearing a felt cap. He had an interesting look. He looked like someone from ancient times. When he came in, everyone nodded and said hello. I asked my friend Mr. Liang who it was. He told me that it was the father of thick black theory, Lee Zongwu, and that he was quite famous in Sichuan. Then Mr. Liang told me Lee Zongwu's story. I wanted to meet him, so Mr. Liang took me over there and introduced me. The father of thick black theory invited us to sit down and have some tea and chat. Our so-called chat consisted of us sitting there and listening to him expound his theories of this and that, talk about the Japanese occupation, listen to him curse the Sichuan army, and listen to him talk about how this and that person were worthless. This was my first meeting, but after I would see him often in Changsha Park. One time he said to me, "I can see that you want to make a name for yourself, become a hero. I can teach you a way that will make it happen much faster. If you want to succeed and make a name for yourself, you should curse people." That's what I did. And you don't need to curse a lot of people, just curse me. Say that Lee Zongwu is a bastard, he should die, and you'll succeed. But you need to stick a note extolling Confucius on your forehead while you do so. And in your mind, honor me, Lee Zongwu is the god of thick and black. I didn't take his advice and thus didn't make a name for myself. Another time when I was talking to him, I told him that he doesn't need to talk about thick black theory anymore and he doesn't need to curse people anymore. He turned and said to me, "I'm not just cursing people at random. Everyone has a thick face. I'm only taking that false face and peeling it off." I told him that he needs to be careful and that there are people in the central government that are noticing him. There he might get taken to jail. He replied, "My boy, you don't understand. I'm the same age as Einstein. Einstein invented the theory of relativity, and now he is a world-famous scientist. But I'm here in Sichuan, in Chengdu, and I haven't really made a name for myself. I hope they catch me. If they throw me in jail, then I'll be world famous. He was never taken to jail and he didn't become world famous. Later he said that it was bad luck, but that year his book was very popular all across China. A lot of people were a bit scared of him after that, but not me. I still talk to him quite often. A couple years later, a friend of mine, a monk, had passed away. My friend, also a monk, and I wanted to go to Zilongjing to pay our respects. We traveled for 8 days. When we found the friend's grave, we bowed our heads and burned incense. At the time, I hadn't realized how far away Zilongjing was from Chengdu. It would be another 8 days to get back. It dawned on me that I wouldn't have enough money to get back. I started to get very worried. Then I remember that Li Zongwu was from Zilongjing, and he was a famous person, so I was sure that anyone I asked would know where his house was. We began walking and asked around. His house was quite big and the front gate was wide open. Before, it was always like that in the countryside. The front gate was opened in the morning and not shut until night. Not like how it is in the big cities these days. We walked in and called his name. He came right away and he seemed very happy to see me. Where did you come from? What are you doing out here? I came to visit a friend of mine who passed away, but I'm not dead yet. After the brief misunderstanding was cleared up, he arranged for dinner to be prepared. After the meal and some drinks, I told him that there was another reason I was there to see him. I told him that I didn't have enough money to get back to Chengdu. He asked how much I needed and I told him that I needed $10. He got up and went to a cabinet in the living room and got an envelope and gave it to me. There were $20 in there. I told him that I only needed 10. He insisted that I take 20. I told him that I didn't know when I would be able to pay him back.